only has enough foam for 2 to 3 derailed tankers, and they do not have the know-how or equipment to deal with a chemical spill in the marsh. County's emergency management coordinator is concerned about emergency evacuation routes for people trapped between the bluffs and the rail at schools and other locations. Upping our game in emergency preparedness costs money, and all of our local cities, villages, and towns are expected to pick up the tab. And that means we, the taxpayer, not the railroads or the oil companies. Then there is the impact on our quality of life. People are complaining of increased vibration, noise, and even smells in their homes and yards, and long delays at crossings. They worry about the access to recreational access that draws people to our neighborhoods. In the city of La Crosse, the decline of these neighborhoods could impact the tax base at a time when our city is already fighting to revitalize blighted neighborhoods. People are worried about the marsh as a floodplain, the city's most highly used recreation area and a wildlife refuge. At present, it is estimated the project will take about 7 acres and involve building new bridges or culverts and also an access road. There is no nearby land that can be reclaimed to compensate for the loss of this floodplain. As we said, a chemical spill in the marsh could result in hazardous materials in our storm sewers, sanitary system, and in our rivers. Maureen?
Thank you. As I looked around the room, I saw a couple of other faces that I recognized. We have Steve Carolyn, the Parks Director for the city, and Dale Hexum, the Public Works Director, and also the La Crosse Fire Department is here represented. So thank you very much. So the agenda says that this part is called a review of progress, but I am going to call it the train is not out of the station. Because I'm not going to start off here by telling you that 100 years ago, railroads got the power to make all of the rules, or that there's no way that local people can change the laws or regain control. People are asking if we can do anything. The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, we have already begun. Here's some of what our group has been doing. At our request of our group, and with the help of Senator Schilling, BNSF brought 6 people to La Crosse to meet with members of our group, Mayor Cabot, Senator Schilling, Representative Billings, Councilman Bob Sequist, and Wisconsin Railroad Commissioner Jeff Playley. We submitted a page-and-a-half of questions to BNSF. They refused to put the answers in writing, but they will be returning to meet with us next week to discuss our questions. We plan to present to them the results of the survey that you will be taking tonight. We asked Mayor Cabot for the city to do studies of vibration, noise, pollution, traffic delays, access to recreation, impact on the La Crosse River marsh, and more. Carolyn Jenkins has pressed the state, county, and federal agencies that are involved in granting permits to coordinate and to scrutinize them at the highest level possible, and is monitoring so that that will be done. And she'll be speaking a little bit more about this. C.A.R.S has been working with bipartisan legislators in southeast Minnesota as a rail safety bill works its way into Minnesota law, and we hope that there will be some future activity in Wisconsin's legislature too. Actually, we've been in touch with over 120 organizations and local governments nationwide. We're looking at the archaeological heritage of the area. With our encouragement, La Crosse County is proposing to hire an engineering consultant to look at the safety of crossings on county roads and certain bridges and to review inspection reports. Railroad workers are on our side. Their unions throughout the country are galvanizing to protect pedestrians and motorists, trackside communities, and its own workforce by requiring more crew members when they are needed, and also by opposing excessively long and heavy trains. Longer and heavier trains are more likely to have air brake problems, to block crossings, and more. To prepare for tonight's meeting, I asked both of our U.S. senators and area legislators, state and federal, to inform us of what their offices are pursuing. Senator Tammy Baldwin, U.S. Representative Kind, State Senator Schilling, and Representative Billings provided written statements, and they're available for you on the table on the side. Also, Representative Tim Waltz of Minnesota submitted a statement. Of course, we share valuable Mississippi waterway and more with the state of Minnesota. And I'm going to briefly summarize some of the parts of what we're learning is being done on a federal level, on a state level, and a local level. On a federal level first, many concerns about safety and neighborhood impacts will need to be handled on a federal level. Hearing our concerns, Representative Kind, along with Representative Waltz in Minnesota, are pressing for action from federal agencies that regulate the railroad system, and also have asked Congress to create the funding to do so, requiring railroads, not just taxpayers, to pay for the impact of their business ventures on communities. Representative Kind is continuing to work with Representative Waltz, Mayor Cabot, and the La Crosse community. The report from Representative Kind in particular does a really good job of explaining some of the voluntary agreements of the freight rail industry that have taken place this year, the National Transportation Safety Board recommendations. There's an emergency order from the U.S. Department of Transportation about making sure that hazardous substances are properly classified, and really the month-by-month increasing oversight in 2014 that's being given. Today, in fact, today and tomorrow, there are National Transportation Safety Board hearings on rail safety that are taking place in Washington. And if you look that up on the computer, you can see them. You can see them live streamed, or you can get a webcast of them later on. Senator Baldwin and more than a dozen senators are urging a user fee fund on railroads to help train first responders, perform more research on safety, change rules to make it easier to take the old cars offline, and to add railroad inspectors to understaffed federal agencies. For example, Minnesota has only one federal railroad inspector. I'm still a little bit unclear about the number for Wisconsin, but it's not more than one or two dedicated inspectors for the entire state. Senator Baldwin has met with Mayor Cabot in Washington and has said that new reports of train accidents around the country are particularly concerning as BNSF makes progress towards laying a second rail in La Crosse. So that's on the federal level. Now, other concerns have to be handled on a state level. Our local representatives, Senator Schilling, Representatives Jill Billings and Steve Doyle, have made a priority of establishing mutual aid agreements with our neighbors in Minnesota. This would allow emergency responders to cross state lines and go to the other state for emergencies, something you'd think would be obvious, but it's not. This is an issue that La Crosse Fire Chief Cleveland has worked on for several years. Our state representatives have also been working with Chief Cleveland on the issue of increasing funding for hazmat materials that are being transported on our local rail lines. And our local legislators have been very helpful and available to help us link to the decision makers, and we do appreciate that. Now, locally, Mayor Cabot wants BNSF to permanently locate a firefighting foam car within the city limits to respond to accidents throughout the region. That would be a several $100,000 improvement that would help with our regional capabilities to fight fires from rail. He's also interested in track investment to reduce vibrations, additional tree plantings possibly to reduce noise and dust impact, and a review of train speeds and routing depending on the types of materials being shipped. Mayor Cabot will be asking that all costs incurred by the city due to the railroad expansion be paid by the railroad, and has noted that Gulf operations will be impossible without a second railroad line. La Crosse County Emergency Coordinator Keith Butler reported planning that has taken place to revise evacuation routes because of increased trains. that BNSF hosted a meeting in March for regional